How's it going, everyone? Welcome to a video on how to get better at Geometry Dash. I already made one of these about 6 years ago, except I've learned a lot more about the game since then, and I've also learned a lot more on how to give better advice. The one I made a while ago, it's a little bit outdated at this point because I kind of just winged that one. This one I've come in much better prepared with how to give you some specific tips on how to get better. And also other content creators have provided tips as well, which I will put scattered throughout this video. This guide is really focused on people that are just starting to get into the game. However, I will say even if you're already beating some demons, there will be some useful information for you as well. I do have some other more advanced tutorials. I'll put the links in the description down below for people that are like looking to practice levels that are beyond medium demon. I've made 2 videos that'll help you out, so you can take a look at those as well. However, like I said, lots of good info here for new people and for, I wouldn't want to say veterans, but for people that are slaying demons as well. Before we begin with some specific tips, Geometry Dash is a very mental game. It's a skill-based game, but it's not really a battle of you against other people. It's a battle of you against yourself. You are trying to become a better player because you want to be better than yourself, not because you want to be better than other people. You want to improve upon yourself. It's kind of like running in that way. The majority of people, when they're running a marathon, unless you're a competitive runner, which means you're in like the top 0.000 something percent of people, which is kind of the same as Geometry Dash, you know, when you are like doing levels that are on the top demons list, which are like the best of the best of the best. Yeah, you're competing a little bit. But when you're below that, like I am still, you know, you are competing against yourself. Who is beating what level at what time? It's not important. What's important is you and your story through the game. That is what's the most important. Just listen to what Nepesta has to say. With how insane the growth of the community has been, we're getting a lot of players these days that are extremely gifted, and I think a lot of newer players get stressed out when they don't see results that match the pace of some of these prodigies. I think it's important to remind these newer players that one of the beautiful things about this game is that anyone can get good at it, no matter how long it takes. This isn't an Olympic sport where your ability to compete is decided by genes you either were or weren't born with. Even if you start out way slower than the people around you, even if it takes hundreds or thousands of tries to do what others can do in mere minutes, you can accomplish anything you want in this game. Don't give up just because you had a slow start. If you work hard, you'll make it there before you know it. Which I agree with. I mean, I'm in my 30s now and I'm playing this game and I can still crush some pretty difficult levels and I'm always improving. It's all about not comparing yourself to other people. It's about putting in the work to make yourself better at the game. Nepesta said it beautifully. Well, let's get to specifics then. You just opened up Geometry Dash for the first time. What should you do? Obviously, you should go and try to complete as many main levels as possible. I would even go as far as to say, just focus on the main levels until you beat all the main levels. It'll give you a solid base of skills that you'll be able to apply to many other levels. The main levels in Geometry Dash teach you every skill you need because it teaches you everything you need to know. It teaches you about duels and Hexagon Force. It teaches you about speed changes later on, especially with electrodynamics. It teaches you how to be decent at flying, decent at wave. It teaches you all the game modes that you need. Play the main levels, and even if you get stuck, just keep on throwing yourself at them because that is how you're gonna get your base set ready to be doing other levels. That isn't to say that you can't be doing other levels while you're doing the main levels, but it's important to set goals and it's important to have your first major goal in the game being beat the main Rob Top levels. Once you've done that, you can start kind of like increasing the load and going on to like some easier demons that are harder than the Rob Top levels, medium demons, etc. You know, but the main goal should be doing the Rob Top levels. Play them in any order that you want. Go back and forth between them. However, I would save the 3 demon levels for last, like Clubstep, ToE2, and Deadlocked. It's supposed to be an enjoyable experience. It's going to be hard, and definitely as you're playing through, especially the demon levels, you're going to hit a wall, and you're going to probably hit your first wall with the game, maybe electrodynamics or something. Maybe earlier for some people, maybe later for others, but you're going to hit a wall, and a part of Geometry Dash is you got to learn how to smash through those walls. It'll feel like it's impossible for a certain amount of time. It'll feel hopeless, and then all of a sudden something's going to click, and you're going to be like, wait a sec. I think I can actually do it now. and then you're gonna do it, and it's gonna be surprising. It's gonna come at you suddenly. But Geometry Dash is a mental game. It's about like how well can you break down those mental walls and push past them. So like I said, the main goal should be the RobTop levels, but play some other ones while you're doing it. Make sure you're enjoying the game. Let's see what Tried has to say about that. I think my tip would probably be that it doesn't matter how long a level takes you. If you're working on beating a new hardest and you're just not enjoying the grind, it's okay to drop it for a bit and beat some easier levels and then come back to it. Your skill still improves when you're beating stuff a bit below your skill range. And even if you never come back to the level you're working on, there's no shame in that. GD is a game to be enjoyed, and if you're not enjoying it, there's nothing wrong with working on something else that you do enjoy. So this is a good tip. You're supposed to be having fun. So even though the main goal, I think personally, should be doing all the main RobTop levels to get like your base skill all set and good to go, make sure you're having fun and you know, go back and forth between other levels. Like if you want to take a break from the RobTop levels, even though you're beating easier stuff, you're still improving your base skill. What it comes down to is the more you play the game, no matter what difficulty it is, you're still going to get better at the game. Even though there are shortcuts to get better at the game, which we'll talk about later. Ship skill is something that's hard for people to get around. It's usually a huge hurdle. So doing things like electrodynamics, especially doing electrodynamics, is going to get you ready for the RobTop demon levels. So I would say like do electrodynamics last out of all like the non-demons, then go do the demon levels. And like, I think you'll be ready to go if you can do electrodynamics, you know? So I haven't really talked about specifics though. Specifics are important. We are going to talk about how to practice levels. And I'm going to jump into practice mode and show you. Oh yeah, you can't forget the most important tip of all. Make sure to open your chests every day. Let's take a look at a level like Club Step. So one tip I will say is I do like putting manual checkpoints. I mean, a lot of people like leave the auto checkpoints on right here at the bottom. But with manual checkpoints, you can really manually choose exactly from where you want to practice from. That is going to get you way better at a level faster than auto checkpoints. Like right away, you should be turning auto checkpoints off. So one thing about practice that you want to do is you want to get good at doing entire sections of this level. So this ship part right here, you want to practice it. To learn this section, you want to practice it until you can do this entire section fairly comfortably, you know? So like, of course you can put checkpoints here to practice like individual parts of the section, but then like once you've like learned how to do each part of the section, then you're going to want to go, okay, you're going to delete all your checkpoints and you're going to make sure that you can do the entire section in one go. You know, it doesn't have to be every time, but at least you want to make sure you can at least be able to do the entire section like once in, you know, a few attempts, you know, just to show that you've gotten that section down. One thing you also want to do is you want to practice like transitions into certain sections. So instead of practicing just the entire section in itself, maybe I'll find a section that has like kind of a wonky transition or a transition that's difficult, and I'll practice like from midway through one section to midway through another section. Like you see that transition into the UFO. Some people find that kind of challenging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice like transitioning into the part instead of putting a checkpoint where I just did. Because if I put a checkpoint right there, then I'm just practicing each individual part. But you want to practice transitioning into the parts and getting used to like all the transitions in the parts. Now, when you are practicing the level, you want to get used to doing the level a certain way, and you want to get consistent at doing that certain way. For example, in this straight fly section right here, which isn't really a straight fly, the way I like to do it is I just fly into here and I stay in the middle. However, if we put hitboxes on, what you can see here is you can see that you actually don't have to do it that way. You can smash the bottom and then like you can basically do it like that. Like you can fly down at the bottom, smash the bottom, then let go, coast along the top, and then go down and just hit the bottom again. If you know the places that don't have spikes, you know? So like it doesn't have spikes there, you can land there, you can land there. You can do it that way, or you can just fly straight through it. So what you want to do is you want to find out which way is comfortable for you. Do you just want to fly straight through? Or do you want to like learn maybe smashing the bottom and top would be easier? And so you want to do it that way. There's different ways to do each section, and you want to find a comfortable way to do it that works for you. That's more consistent for you. A good example of this is I'm currently learning Subsonic. So in this section in Subsonic, like Aeon Air, when he goes through that blue portal, he suggested to maybe straight fly through that to hit the button a bunch of times. However, I actually don't like doing that. I just hit the button once and then I hold down the button and go up as the ship. So I do that a different way than Aeon recommends. Aeon prefers doing it a certain way, and I prefer doing it another way. And that's fine because there's multiple click patterns that you can do to get through the level, and you got to find out what's comfortable for you. So a good way to do this is if you're having trouble with a certain part or finding a click pattern that works, there are tons of YouTube videos on basically almost every level in the game. You can probably find a completion of most levels in the game, especially demon levels. So go onto YouTube, find someone that's completed and see how are they clicking, what kind of pattern are they doing, and then try it yourself and see, does that work for you? Does it not work for you? Can you change it? Sometimes I'll see a way that Nexus does something. He does it different than Aeon does something, does it different than Juniper does something. They all do it in different ways, and one of those ways are going to work better for me, and I want to find out which one of those there are by experimenting by myself and seeing how they do it and trying their different methods. The end of the level in normal mode, you're going to be here the least out of all the parts. The beginning of the level, because you start from 0%, you're going to be there a lot. The end of the level, not so much. So that's why people like doing runs. They practice. Instead of just practicing each part individually, they'll practice from like 50% to 100%. And it's important to do that so that when you do get to the end of the level, you're comfortable knowing that you can get through multiple sections at the end of the level fairly consistently. You gotta be ready to succeed. And that's what runs help you with. So when you're learning how to do club step, maybe you should practice the entire end of the level, like from 65 to 100% and get fairly consistent at that. And then when you get there in normal mode, it's not gonna be so nerve-wracking. You'll be ready. Let's look at what Junie said about practice. Don't be afraid to over-practice. Practice mode and copyables with start positions are crucial when it comes to learning a level. Sometimes it can be helpful to practice a level backward, starting with runs like 80 to 100, and going to 70 to 100, or 60 to 100, etc. It's very useful advice. Runs are essentially very helpful because, like I said, you're going to be at the end of the level the least when playing in normal mode, so you want to make sure you're able to do it. Over-practice the end. You'll thank me later. Let's see what Brandon Larkin has to say about practice. Take your time. Try setting a timer for 30 to 45 minutes on a specific part you are learning. Don't stop playing until the timer ends. This reduces chances of procrastinating or under-practicing a certain part of the level. It also gives you the opportunity to study the level and different ways that you can die. Listen to music, podcasts, something interesting, and enjoy the process. It's very useful information. I'm actually guilty of this too. Sometimes I'm practicing a certain part and I'm like, this part's really hard. I'm just gonna do another part of the level that I enjoy more, when really I should be focusing on the part that's giving me the most trouble. Also, about listening to a podcast while practicing. I do that a lot too. I love listening to podcasts while practicing, and it makes the experience more fun, really, because you can have something going on in the background. Killing two birds with one stone, right? So speaking of doing runs and making parts consistent, let's see what Azza has to say about that. I think the best tip for learning to slay harder levels is to try to make every section of a level as consistent as possible. This can be done by finding a click pattern that works best for you, like in UFO and wave parts, for example. Everyone has different skill sets, and so if you're struggling on a section, try and find new ways to make the part the most consistent it can. And that's very true. You need to find out what's the most consistent for you, because everyone is different. Sometimes I come up with crazy ways to do parts that other people really don't like doing, but it just works for me. And I just stick with it because it's consistent for me. That's the way I play. For example, on the wave, I usually die because I click too early on certain parts. And so if there's a way I can click early and still get away with it by doing like a micro click later, it might even be easier for me to do that than it is to do what normally people do. So after you've beaten the main levels, you should have a decent idea of what game modes that you're good at and which ones you need help on. You might even come to this realization before. You might even get to like Electrodynamics and be like, wow, ship is hard. So when it comes to picking which levels to do next after you've done the main levels, which demons you want to grind, to get better at the game, then you should really be focusing on the game modes that you're not that good at. You need to get those base skills up so that you don't get slaughtered in higher difficulties. Like if you're only doing wave levels, you're really good at the wave and nothing else, you're going to be really limited in what levels you can actually do, right? But if you suck at the wave like I did, then go and jump into some easier 9 circles levels like problematic or fractured circles and stuff like that. You need help with memorization, you can't remember certain parts, then play the Easy Demon Memory, right? Which I played recently, and it's great for practicing memory, because I'm not good at memory, and that demon was pretty hard for me, even though it's an easy demon. It was a great level to play for me to get better at the game. The GDDP is an excellent source when it comes to this. Let's go take a look at the website. So if you just look up GDDP in Google, it's the first website. I'll put a link in the description as well. So if you go to the top right here, it says list information. you click on list information and you scroll down, and it has these different tiers of lists. And the beginner tier is mostly like easy demons. I think there might be like one medium here. And then the bronze tier, you're starting to get into, it's like a mix of like easy demons and medium demons. So this list is really useful for you because what it does is on the right side over here, it'll tell you what skill that it's practicing on. So for example, Speed Changer by Zenthic Alpha will practice Speed Changers. Nothing by Iris Wolf X will practice Ship and Timings. Outbreak by Slay will practice Ship and Wave. Wowzers Holy will practice Ship and Ball. Decode Timings and Wave. Decode is a fantastic level to get better at the game. So the GDDP is a good resource that you can use to find levels that use specific game modes that you may not be doing so well in. And you can complete those levels, and that will most assuredly get you better at the game modes that you're not good at. You want to start setting some goals. You want to be like, okay, so I've been doing a bunch of these like easier demons. I know what skill sets I got to work on. And Siki says it best, so I'm just gonna let him say it.
If there's one tip I can give you, is to set goals. Setting goals is like having a map which gives you a clear direction to your destination. The one with the map knows where he's going and understands what he needs to do next. And every time he gets lost, he looks back at the map and then stays back on track. Seriously, set some goals and you'll be amazed to see what you can achieve.
Exactly. Set goals, get a roadmap, plan out like milestone demons that you want to do. You want to work up to a hard demon. You want to work up to a demon like Dance Massacre or Forest Temple or Ultra Drivers. The hard demons they're the ones that I love to do anyways. You want to work up to some levels like those. Look at those levels. Look at what's in those levels. What skill set are you going to need to do that? And then start planning some levels that you can use to work up to those harder levels. You've always wanted to be Bloodbath. Bloodbath is like the #1 level. Like you've seen so many people do it. You want to get good enough to do Bloodbath. Well, you'd better be damn good at the ship then. So you better start playing levels that have a lot of ship gameplay, you know? You want to set big major goals, and you also want to set like smaller goals along the way too. Like you want to make kind of a roadmap to get up to those big goals that you want to achieve. If you just set the one big goal like way later, like only Bloodbath, then you're just going to be... I wouldn't want to say you're going to be disappointed, but you might be disappointed with your progress because it takes a long time to get there for some people. Some people are just naturally amazing. It takes a long time to get there. You want to set smaller goals along the way as well so that you feel like you're achieving things as you go, right? This is something that may seem controversial, but I absolutely agree with it. If you want to make sure you have the basics all set in stone and you have like a very solid base of skill in the game, then listen to what Stormfly has to say. My recommendation for increasing your skill level would be to clear out all the map packs in their respective order. They may be boring to play, especially in the beginning, but with how these maps are set up, you are slowly but surely building up your skill to the point where you are ready to take on demons. Not only are you building up your skill level this way, but you are also building up mental endurance and patience, which is an incredibly important aspect you need to master for playing Geometry Dash. If you don't have the patience to beat all the map packs, you're going to struggle in the future. A lot of people don't like the map packs, and there are some levels that, you know, aren't that good. But the thing is, even in some of the best levels in the game, there's parts of those levels that I don't like. Like every level I've played, there's always been a few parts I'm like, I don't like that part. And like map packs help build up the mental fortitude for when you get to those moments as you're playing through the game. It helps you get in the mind space of being able to easily break through those walls that I was talking about earlier, because you have to break through those mental walls of like, this is too difficult, or I hate this part, it's so annoying. Like it's all doable, you know, and you got to be able to just see those walls in front of you and smash through them mentally. And doing the map packs, honestly, it helps you get ready for that. So speaking of those walls, one thing that I have to mention is if your goal is to get better at the game, you have to challenge yourself. Once you've gotten up to a certain skill level and you're really comfortable at that skill level, you gotta push past it. You gotta try something harder if you want to get better at the game. Even though the next step might be seemingly impossible, a hard demon compared to a medium demon is really difficult. So you're gonna hit those mental walls of like, dude, how could anyone do this in normal mode? It's seemingly impossible. It's so hard. But the more you throw yourself at it, the more you'll be able to break through those walls. For me, I've hit many of those walls. Tons. One of the first ones was when I was doing 9 circles levels like way back in 1.9. I did Fractured Circles, and then I jumped from Fractured Circles to Jawbreaker, which was a huge jump. And when I first played Jawbreaker, I thought, this is impossible. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And 6,000 attempts later, I was able to do it, and there were a ton of struggles. When I first started, I thought, who could do this? I'm just not good enough, and I just don't have the natural ability to do it. Whereas, you know, I'm older, I was in my late 20s at the time, and there's tons of people that were way younger than me playing the game. I was like, they're just better than me. Naturally better. How could I ever do this? And I was wrong. I threw myself at it enough, and then at one point I just thought, hey, actually, I think I can do this. And all of a sudden that wall, I broke through that wall, it crumbled, and I got over that mindset of like, I can't do this because I challenged myself. Let's see what Zeronium has to say about it. Make yourself uncomfortable. My best tip for improvement is always to be one step above what you think you can do and always be outside your comfort zone. It's important to know that you do not have to keep playing a level if you do not have fun playing it. Pushing yourself will always be helpful in the long run. You are capable of more than what you think when it comes to this game. Things get consistent quick with enough practice. Trust me. Speaking of, I never thought I'd be able to beat Bloodbath. I thought Bloodbath was no way. Like, you think I can be, no way. There's no way I'd be able to beat it. It was just a mental block. Once I actually like sat down and just dedicated the time to do it, it just clicked one day. I was like, I can actually do this. What? It happens. So for some technical specific things, like if you really want to focus on a particular game mode, like Straight Fly, for example, then make sure to look for and play challenges. Like challenges have helped me with particular things, especially like Straight Fly. They've also helped me with getting better at spam and how to be consistent with like some spammy parts. Because in some levels, there are spammy parts. It's just the way the game is. Like Black Blizzard has some UFO spam that I wasn't very good at, but doing some spam challenges helped me with that. The nice thing about challenges is they usually use the default background where it's just like layout style. It's the blue background. So it's really easy to read the gameplay. You can see what's going on. It's very clear. And you can see exactly what you have to do. So there's no tricks to it. There's no visual tricks. And you can just focus on yourself and the inputs. And then when it comes to like recreating that in an actual level, when there is like the visual stuff that can maybe block your view or whatever, you know, you're ready for it. For the last section of the tutorial, I just want to give some very specific things that have helped me. For example, let's say we go into like a little bit of a wave challenge here. So like, as you just saw there, one of my problems with the wave is that I always let go or I press the button too early. So for example, I always have to recorrect. Buffering too much, pressing the buttons too early, things like that. That's my problem. So we all have our own little problems in the game, and you got to figure out what those problems are, and you have to learn how to fix them. So mine is always pressing the button too early. So when I'm practicing, I always try to get the muscle memory and like, Eric, hold it down a little bit longer than you think you need to. If I die from holding down the button too long like that, that is much better than the old habit that I have of letting go and pressing too early. Also, for something specific is find out what you're comfortable using, like the control method. Some people prefer the mouse clicking with their finger, which I do these days. Some people prefer using their keyboard because you can really like aim on it. Like if you have a mechanical keyboard, it has really good response time. It's nice. You know, if you're on your mobile device, do you like playing with your thumb, holding your phone like this, or do you like putting it down on the table and tapping with your finger? Like there's various ways to play. You got to find out what's comfortable for you. Some people enjoy playing on the controller, playing with their thumb, like hitting an X button on a PS5 controller, which I did for the longest time. So, you know, experiment and mix and match with that as well. I hope those tips were useful for you. This isn't a comprehensive guide by any means. As a matter of fact, there's probably a lot of technical things I could have talked about too, like some exact click patterns on exact levels. But then if I started doing that, this video would go on forever. And so I think this is a nice, good, basic guide for the mentality that you gotta have and how you can like start tackling levels and like move on from the RobTop levels into demons. If there is anything else you want to add, feel free to leave a comment because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be jumping down into the comment section. So yeah, leave some tips down there, anything that you feel that I missed, and good luck with the game. Like I said, Geometry Dash is a battle against yourself, and well, I think Trustus says it better than I do. As cheesy as it may sound, don't forget to have fun. It's very easy to caught up worrying about your performance and forgetting what an amazing game it truly is. You want to get better at the game, make sure you're, you know, working hard at it, but also make sure you're having fun because it is a game after all. Very much like running. A lot of people don't like running, so why would you run? There's so many other exercises to do. I myself, I like running, and so I want to get better at running, and so I practice it because I enjoy it. Geometry Dash is like that, like running. It's a battle against yourself. You're always trying to improve yourself. The name of the game. Good luck. Leave a thumbs up. It helps me a lot. And as always, peace.